Axiom, the tasty truth.
I very politely and very respectfully ask those people to fuck off.
Happy D-Day, or as happy as we can be. Okay, I'm gonna start this shit over. Yeah, Happy D-Day, or as happy as we are allowed to be in this year of our Lord 2020. Welcome to the Minority Report, a laid-back podcast where myself, fellow minorities, and a token straight white male discuss culture, politics, and deport those annoying woke whites, mostly. And to go back to D-Day, a lot of folks have a misconception of D-Day. What does the D stand for? Does it stand for Doomsday, Disaster Day? The truth is the D doesn't really stand for any of those things. It was just a placeholder. Much like these minority characters that these woke right writers have decided to enforce upon us. But before we get into that discussion, let's introduce ourselves. And just for the listeners and for the audience and for the viewers to know that all three of us are actually writers. So not only are we going to talk about our minority points, we're going to talk about what we have published and or are working on. So with the most impression points is RJ coming back from the education episode, you remember her.
Hi there, I'm RJ, and I am a working class Latin woman living in Austin, Texas. I do have some previously published poetry, and I'm currently working on some short stories and more poetry with a focus on female sexuality and the Austinite lifestyle.
The intersection of stunning and brave. Bravo.
Thank you. That's in glory, please.
I will promote you the way that Barcelona does, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
And our token straight white male of the show is going to be Josh. So Josh, tell them how white you are.
Well, I am Josh. Middle name's Christopher. That's how white I am.
Gosh.
Straight, white. I am Catholic, so at least I'm not a WASP. I got that going for me. And I am unpublished, but I'm working on several different short stories. Also a writing project called Monk and Madman. But yeah, I'm very white.
That's right. And I'm your host, Chris. Half the time I don't introduce myself on these episodes, so there you go. I am a gay Asian immigrant, and as far as writing goes, for some reason people like my poetry because it gets into my feelings and whatnot. I'm floating around a few journals of arts, Texas State University, Central Texas College, and A&M up in Central Texas. But on to, speaking of poetry and literature, so back in February, which is forever ago in 2020 time, Barnes & Noble had, I'm so sorry, I promise you, folks who listen to me, I had this on point without breaking character, but this is just so ridiculous. So, context, Barnes & Noble decided for their Black History Month promotion that they were going to take what critics call literary blackface. So they had their established classics such as The Wizard of Oz, Frankenstein, whatever, and they had black versions of the characters made into artwork and then put onto the covers. Never mind that the characters are still white inside the novels. So a lot of people, for some reason, we were offended by this and called bullshit on this on this corporate nonsense. So they gave back more corporate nonsense. First they pulled the plug, the smartest thing they did yet, on this project, and they gave the corporate apology, where they said, we are sorry for those who are offended, but our mission was to promote diversity and black authors.
Yeah, my fine brown ass. Seriously.
Yes. So, RJ, with the most minority points at this table, most oppression points, pardon. Let's get your reaction to the audacity of the caucasity, and followed up with a general question of how do you feel about color washing in not just the publishing world, but works in media, and taking color washing for those who are blessed to not know the term, compared to be unblessed. Color washing is when you take an established white character and get them a race lift so you can get the diversity or minority points. So, RJ, without further ado, tear into them.
Well, in regards to the Barnes & Noble Black History Month promotion, I mean, I gotta say, when I first saw the photos for the promotion, which included like display cases in the stores, and you see the piles of, you know, the redone book covers, my first thought was just, gosh, this is stupid. This is just so stupid and ridiculous, and damn, like, who would actually go through with this? I was really surprised to learn with Barnes & Noble because it's such an ignorant move. And quite frankly, I was like hugely disappointed that it was Barnes & Noble because, you know, growing up, I love Barnes & Noble. Growing up, I would go there and it would help me to like explore literature and feed my curiosity as a writer. And then to hear that they did something like this color washing promo, again, hugely disappointing because when you're a big mega brand like Barnes & Noble, it's like you wield so much influence. Why not just use that influence to promote Black literature written by Black authors for Black History Month? To me, that seems kind of like a duh moment. It's kind of like, oh, why would you cast Koreans in your Korean movie? And it's like, oh gosh, duh. But anywho, so yeah, the moment I saw that, it was like I said, ridiculous, surprise. It was Barnes & Noble, total huge letdown. I feel like the time, money, and effort they used for this color washing promo, they could have easily used to promote Black literature by Black authors. And if they wanted to do something different and attention grabbing, they could have promoted like Black writers who are relatively unknown or who are up and coming. That would have been daring. And that would have been inspiring. But and I mean, also let's not forget that ridiculous rendition of Dorothy on the cover of Wizard of Oz. You described it a little bit, and for those who don't know, basically they replaced the traditional white Dorothy on the book cover with her ruby slippers, and they replaced her with a Black Dorothy carrying red Air Jordans. Now, my reaction to that fucking picture was, damn, if this had been a Hispanic Dorothy, would they have given her a gingham poncho and red chanclas and red, like, mariachis, geez Louise, but anyways, maracas. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, so I mean, they're trying to promote how diverse they are, and they're promoting diversity, and they're promoting, you know, Black empowerment. That's what they claim, but really they just end up promoting a stereotype. And that drawing right there looks more to me like a stereotypical caricature than it does a realistic, relatable representation of any of the Black women I've ever met or that I know currently. So, again, like I said, incredibly disappointed with Barnes & Noble. I haven't completely written them off, but the thing is, like, it does raise some suspicion, you know, like, when you're as big and established as Barnes & Noble, is this really, like, and when we have seen color washing promos fail in the past, was this really, like, a genuine slip-up, or was it just a matter of, hey, any publicity is good publicity? Or is it a matter of actual insidious racism and a way to keep writers of color down by saying, oh well, we tried and we fucked up, sorry, and we'll try not to do it again. We'll try to do better next time. And it's like you said, it's a matter of like them just handing out insincere apologies without the intention of actually correcting this wrong and making sure it doesn't happen in 5 to 10 years from now. Which, I mean, I feel very aggravated by the fact that that's like so many things in our society right now is, you know, they give out an insincere apology and we all feel outraged, but nothing really gets fixed. And so in 5 to 10 years from now, we have to go through the outrage all over again. So that's my response in regards to the Barnes & Noble promo. In regard to like the general color washing of white characters, I gotta say, I mean, to me, it's just another way to pretend you're some sort of white savior. And obviously, us brown folk are just all too happy to be used by white companies who want to pat themselves on the back and gain publicity or gain profit off the publicity. The thing is that, again, they could use the time and money to promote original works by minority creators, but they continue to ignore us or inhibit us. And they promote works and characters that don't need any further promotion, really. And they know it's the popular thing right now to be woke and to quote-unquote promote diversity. And they're not interested in doing the right thing with algorithms. They're not interested in doing the right thing, they're interested in doing the popular thing. Which again would be great if it was like, okay, they're doing the popular thing, but they're doing right by it. But they're not. It's just a matter of like, we gotta appear popular. And in doing so, they actually damage the image and esteem of minority communities. Hell, I don't need to see a Latinized Alice in Wonderland. I don't, and we don't need the cultural hand-me-downs, for one, and for another, it feels like when we do things like this, it insults us as creators, really, as if to say that we as colored people are not intelligent or capable enough to create our own characters and our own context and our own content. So, like I said, that's enough is insulting, and I gotta say, when you color wash characters created by white authors, you're still promoting that white author. and promoting the stereotype that only white authors are capable of creating great works of literature. You're elongating their legacy, which is fine, but you will not even enable us writers of color, to start our own legacies. To go on a tangent here just a little bit, because we also talked about not just literature and publishing, but also with other medias. This issue does remind me much of the false diversity that we see in cinema, in TV shows, in movies. Granted, we have come a hell of a long way in recent years mostly because of streaming services who have provided a wider avenue for filmmakers of color to be seen and heard in our own original content. But outside of that, we do see a lot of studios. For some reason, they boast their new TV shows or their new blockbuster hits to be, diverse. It's so diverse. And then you actually tune into the show, or you watch the trailer for this show or movie, and you say to yourself, wow, they really did do a good job of representing every race and ethnicity in this cast. Too bad everybody's exactly the same shade of skin. So they really pat themselves on the back for, being these noble white men who casted a diverse cast, but they only casted light-skinned minorities, which is infuriating because, again, like I said, they're using that to promote their fucking show. and all the while it's well, you made sure to find the lightest skinned actor you could find with the most aggravating features you can find, and slap a hijab on her and say, look how open-minded and progressive we are. So again, that is also just super insulting and pretty insidious, I feel like. It's very covert. I can't stand the lie. It's like a huge, massive lie, for one. But my scruples aside, just point is, and the fact is that again, it's really inhibiting minorities. And the reason I bring it up at all during this conversation is just because cinema is the biggest or main storytelling mechanism we have in our culture and in our time. And it's funny to see just throughout the various storytelling platforms, not just in the publishing industry, but just throughout these storytelling platforms, we witness a systematic like color washing of white characters and then whitewashing of non-color characters. Again, I feel like if you are a white person who is truly interested in like the promotion of, and the progress of minorities and minority writers and creators, hell, I would say first, acknowledge that we are just as intelligent and as capable as you are. I don't need you to speak for me. I can speak for myself just fine. I just need the same, the same opportunities, the same platform, the same education that you are given. Second, hell, you can help us to have access to those things if you're able to, if we don't have access to those things. I feel like that only comes about through truly open-minded individuals. Got excited there. Individuals. And third, obviously don't just use minorities as props for your own self-promotion. I really don't need sometimes you get these woke white individuals who, they'll like come to my rescue just to show what a great white savior he or she is. And again, like I said, I'm not a prop, you should see me as your neighbor, as your friend, as your fellow whatever, fellow human being. And anybody who wants to join in like the cause that for more progress for minorities, simply to take selfies so you'll get more likes and more followers. I would very politely and very respectfully ask those people to fuck off, because I don't need to be some middle class white brat's frog to make him or herself feel better about themselves or feel like they're a hero when they're truly not. In my opinion, every human being has a duty to help his or her neighbor when you can. So if you want to help me through my hardships, great, but don't do it just so you can get like follows and likes. Or some guys do it just to get a date. That's what I really hope you don't, and I'm sure you don't. And I would encourage you that you never do, of course, because it's really that. Oh my gosh, believe you me, that's really pathetic. So those are all my thoughts on that topic. Thanks for asking.
Yes, most definitely. And there's an aspect of color washing too, where a lot of folks will assume if they have color washed any character or whatnot, and I argue at the top of the line. First, folks are going to assume that because I'm against them, must be some white guys. Like, oh, look at this racist against color washing. And just, no, you can be a minority and be against this woke bullshit too.
Yes.
Yeah, don't assume that, again, it's an assumption that we all must be the same, a shade of skin or stereotype anime features or having red zippers or have gratuitous Spanish every once in a while. They just I love those shows. You know what I'm talking about,
yes.
Too. And there was the token Latin cast member, Latinx, whatever. I don't know what white people are trying to make the Spanish language nowadays. Well, white Americans. The Spanish is fine. But anytime there is a Latino on the show, they're going to have him speak gratuitous Spanish instead of saying, grandma, he's going to say, my abuela.
I swear, and hey, I'm just gonna say this, for people who just don't know, when I see characters like that, or dialogue like that, on an English-speaking, program, I'm not talking about like a telenovela, I'm talking about an English-speaking program, I find those characters immediately, unrelatable, because me and other Hispanic people I know, unless you're speaking to, a Spanish-speaking person, we actually hardly ever, have a need to, really, bust out our Spanish for no real reason. We talk primarily in English. I might every now and then say something in Spanish, again, for a Spanish speaker or for some sort of, cheers or whatever. But those characters often break out in gratuitous Spanish where it's just Why did they suddenly start babbling in Spanish or arguing in Spanish for no real reason? I don't know. It's unrelatable. Those characters are actually unrelatable to me and to like other Hispanic people that I know.
They're relatable because they don't exist.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know anybody who really talks that way. I mean, I feel like it's like maybe when Southerners see like some Southern stereotype played on TV, and you're just like, we don't know anybody who actually like talks like that in Texas. So anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't remind the audience every 5 seconds that a Latina character is Latina, then how are they going to know?
Yeah,
it's not like they can see
exactly,
it,
right?
Oh, yeah. And they're always make sure that she's so sensual. They're making the black woman loud and angry.
Oh,
They're gonna make the black guy, this sexy or prowess. And
Oh gosh, yeah, seriously. I mean, it's funny. Oftentimes when I see so those TV shows I mentioned or movies where it's like mostly light-skinned minorities. Okay, sometimes they'll have the token black guy he's the token dark-skinned black guy who, for some reason, he's the only guy who has to take off his shirt all the time and show off muscular abs, and he's hitting on awkward ladies and he's swooning the women, and I'm just like, wow, way to promote the stereotype. And yet you people still pat yourself on the back for saying like, yeah, we're promoting diversity and really helping minority empowerment.
Oh yeah, and the thing that makes the most
disgusting.
and the thing that makes the most empowered is just taking again characters that have been white for since they've been established, and then saying, okay, we're gonna have, for example, a female Doctor Who because women empowerment. A female doctor on the show Doctor Who. Or we're gonna have. So I'm trying to remember these terrible examples, but I'm trying to excise them from my head.
Yeah, they're not worth remembering, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, a black Hermione from Harry Potter.
Yep.
It's like it's not really necessary. Like you could just create. If we're talking about Harry Potter, I mean, you could probably just create.
You could read another book.
Yeah. I would say like if they're still producing Harry Potter.
Unfortunately.
Fiction, and I think they are. You could just create a whole new character that happens to be black.
No, the white ones are done playing with Hermione, so it's time.
But that's the thing, like we don't need hand-me-downs. You could just promote the actual original works that were made by minority creators.
Yes.
But I don't know, they might
Yeah, and it's.
they might burst their brain cells
Yeah.
doing that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there's also a mini tangent here with rainbow washing too, where they take traditionally straight characters and make them gay. And again, Harry Potter is my favorite example. Dumbledore's gay, and they tell us after the fact, and everyone's just talking about, oh wow, this is so great. I say, this is queerbait, I'm not taking it.
Yeah, do you think we're that stupid? Or we're just gonna be like swooned by this and okay, yeah, they probably do think we're that stupid. As a populace. As individuals we're not. As populace maybe we are that stupid too, like, oh, we're so swooned by this and taken, we're gonna like spend our money on it and line our pockets.
And there's no one even said that he liked other men, and J.K. Rowling when her Infinite was like, oh, that's implied. I'm just surprised that J.K. Rowling's the one who was, for example, Black Hermione, J.K. Rowling, this is beautiful when she was destroying Twitter for this, but she said, I never said that Hermione was white, and people were pulling up screenshots of her page number, where it said Hermione's pale skin. And
She's just one of those pale-skinned Africans.
Oh yeah, dude, if you're a pale skin Africa, you better be good at hiding because those witch doctors will cut you off. Yeah.
Damn, wow, that's funny shit.
And it's brilliant with Dumbledore because you know what nobody ever asked before that came out? What's Dumbledore? Like, what is he a bachelor? Like when he goes to the bar, what kind of woman does he look for? Nobody cares.
No, they didn't care about sexuality.
He was functionally asexual.
Yeah. I mean, he's old as hell. What do you do when you bump the non-existent against the decrepits? Nothing.
Oh, so, this character, nobody's thinking about this. Nobody's going to be offended if he's gay. I'm going to do this so it's a brave moment for me.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, where I know that for the listeners and viewers, we're talking a lot about tokenism and color washing, but it's essentially the same thing. It's insult to minorities, just giving us shreds, table scraps of representation.
Seriously.
To whether it's a hand-me-down from a established white character once they're done playing with this, or it is, for example, Endgame. I loved how they promoted the shit out. They say, oh, we're going to feature a gay character. There was a side character talking in the first few moments, no name, talking about how sad he was because his AIDS lover died, and
Well, somebody again, I suck my dick with these characters.
it wasn't even a superhero. It said, "Oh, the Valkyrie." Like, it didn't see Valkyrie block lips. And even then, dude, when you see lesbian shit on a media, it's really for straight guys, not for anyone
I
else.
hate that. It is no, yeah, it is. Oh gosh, damn, that's so frustrating. As a woman, like even if I'm a bisexual woman, but I mean, even if I wasn't, like I feel like as a woman, gosh damn, that's so fucking frustrating.
It's so male gaze to where you want to enjoy it, but it's through the male lens.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So.
Hashtag not all males. We're really talking about the problematic white ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is there? I'm trying. Y'all chime in on any characters that stand out to y'all. What comes out to? They were white. Why did they have to be black? Some of these that stand out to me are like Black Annie, Black Little Mermaid.
I didn't even know there was a Black Little Mermaid.
Yeah,
So I'm not aware.
Yeah, I think it's been canceled or at least postponed due to coronavirus, but they were thinking they were going to have Ariel be black in the live action Little Mermaid because they need to make a live action everything.
Yeah, they make a live action everything. Gosh, I don't know. Maybe if they're hearing us, once this is actually up and running, they'll just cancel it. Period. Because they're just like, wow, yeah, we probably shouldn't. Again, like I said, this is not really what we're asking for. This is not really what we want to see. You can do a redheaded Little Mermaid. Like, who gives a fuck? Give me more original Black or Hispanic or other minorities characters.
And that's the thing. Every culture is rich in folklore, to where there's no shortage of African, of Arab, of Hispanic, of folk tales. Yeah.
Pacific Islander, whichever. I mean, come on.
And this is oral tradition for centuries, millennia even.
Yeah.
They exist.
Hell, I mean, I feel like they took the last several hundred years to shut us up with those folklore and try to burn it to the ground or just have us shut up and completely forget about our culture and our original folklore, our oral traditions. And then just in the couple, like I said, last few years, because it's popular, they're like, oh well, let's bring it back up. Which is like I said, we have our own original stories to tell. I just think it's funny that you people could have been profiting off of this for the last several hundred years, but instead by promoting minorities and people of color, but instead we were told to shut up about it for the last several years. And now when they see that they can make a profit off it, it's like, okay, well, we'll just use the minorities finally, utilize them.
And really what it comes off as is this sort of perspective. Oh yeah, we are going to support black people, we're going to support these different minority groups. We're not going to do research into their culture. We're not going to try and understand them. We're just gonna change the book cover of Alice in Wonderland so she's white.
Exactly.
And she's still white inside the book.
Yeah, the book has not changed. It's still about a typical English girl from the 1800s going to Wonderland.
Yeah. So. Oh gosh, I just realized. I mean, I hope they don't do this, but I mean, I just realized that even if they did, color wash the actual, if they decided to redo the whole story, like I said, Black Alice on the cover, I would actually be quite afraid of them actually somehow altering her story to where she's grown up in Harlem, New York in the 70s or something like that, and she's got only a single parent home or something like that.
Instead of the wizard, she's trying to see the whiz.
Or something like that, and I'm just that would frustrate. But the thing that frustrates me because it already has happened in the past where they do things like that. I'm like, wow, fuck you people. Again, you can kindly fuck off.
I mean, it's just like what we were talking about earlier with the character on English TV shows who's Latin, feeling the need to put their language into everything. White people have personality. Minority characters have gimmicks.
Yeah,
that's the message that sends.
Exactly.
White characters are this baseline, like Alice, who's a normal girl, doesn't matter her backstory. She's in this weird, zany situations. But the Black Alice, she, like you were saying, she's from Harlem. it can be during the civil rights movement. She's trying to escape some white bullies, and then she follows the Black Rabbit down to Wonder.
It could be. It's just, I'm just saying, and then like they would have this like yeah, not just black characters or black remade characters, but also Hispanic characters. They would have us talking slang. If we're not talking in Spanish, we're talking in slang, and it's just like, gosh, yeah, I like using slang. I'm just saying that's not 100% my vocabulary. So yeah, I agree with you. It totally sucks, and that's what we grew up with. And I don't know, personally, I watched a lot of TV and movies growing up. And I often felt like just discouraged and left out of the fact of seeing like, hey, I love seeing these characters, that I relate to, like Lizzie McGuire or like the kids off Saved by the Bell, like I relate to those characters. They're funny, they're awkward, they're quirky, but it's hard when you don't see like a single person on the show that looks like you who has the same. It's like every time I would see like a Hispanic girl, if ever, on these kind of shows, they didn't really, I couldn't really relate to that person like as a person. Like I'm like, oh, and it would make me feel bad. 'Cause I'm like, it makes me feel bad that like maybe I'm not living the way I'm supposed to as a Hispanic person because I don't speak Spanish really. And because I'm awkward and quirky in my life, and maybe I'm supposed to be cooler and more charismatic and sexier and fiery. So yeah, and again, I feel like we have made a lot of progress in recent years because there is much more of our voices being heard by us. But it's a struggle really. I mean, I think a lot of people, they think that this is like an overnight. We hear about like overnight success stories, and it's just like no, like true revolution comes through years of struggle and years of progress and trying to change things little by little. And I know that sounds not sexy. It's so much sexier to take your picture, post it on Instagram of you, like, I don't know.
Yeah, marching, yelling, having your filters.
Faces.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, burning shit down, probably. But, I mean, true revolution comes through, like, years of progress and having, doors slammed in your face and being insulted. I have, personally, been insulted by people who think that I'm not, smart enough because I am a Hispanic woman.
Or not Hispanic enough.
or I'm not Hispanic enough to represent Hispanic women. So, like I said, I mean, it's years of struggle. Well, we have accomplished already so much, and we still have a lot to accomplish, which I think we will. I know we will.
Most definitely. And that's such a great segue. We got a lot into what is really needed is character development of minority characters.
Mm-hmm.
So, but let's bring back the context. So, to start off the second round of discussions, let's go back in time, millennia in this year 2020, to Marvel Comics and their mission to always get the woke points, promote diversity. And I'm so sorry. I promise you, I had this under control when I rehearsed. So, for the viewers and listeners out there, Marvel Comics decided that we need a generation of young and hip minority superheroes. So this is the one we got for you. So the new warriors are as follows. We have Trailblazer, who is a very body positive Latinx woman of color, teenage woman of color, who wears pigtails, even though she's not 6. And her superpower is, get this, she has a magic backpack.
She's gonna die.
Oh, and there's also Screen Time, who is he's vaguely Oriental or vaguely Hispanic. I know because I on that sometimes with how thick my mustache can get. And his superpower is, get this, be connected to the internet. That's right, you hated props, and here's this superhero who's a smartphone.
Seriously.
And no one asked this, but you're getting it anyway. How did he get his superpowers? He was exposed to, I quote, experimental internet gas.
Terrible.
But the favorites are the 2 black, non-binary psychic twins aptly named Snowflake and Safe Space. So, a lot of people, long-time comic readers who are traditionally white, spoke out against this, and they're called, oh, you racist, you don't want colored people in your space, or whatever, How dare whites have opinions? And minorities who spoke against this were saying, well, they're trying their best, they have good intentions. To where it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to be criticized for having a damn opinion. So, Josh, you're going to start off the second round of our discussion. First off, explain your people. And secondly, what can writers do, in your opinion, to make good minority characters?
Oh boy. So, oh my god, they really just didn't try with these. You talked about screen time being a prop. Trailblazer, that's actually a previous character that's existed for years. Dora the Explorer.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm sure that Dora and the Lost City of Gold is going to be part of the MCU now.
It's gotta be.
Well, it looks like that this Ghidorah took us a few pit stops at the McDonald's nearby.
Oh gosh. She wants Taco Bell very much. Just saying.
Yo quiero Taco Bell. And that's the gratuitous Spanish again.
Exactly. Go ahead.
And Safe Space and Snowflake. if I went out to parody SJW politics run amok in the world of writing, that's exactly what I would do. I would have. It makes me feel so good as a writer because I know that my first drafts are way better than this garbage.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Like,
You have better work than this.
how many people did that have to get approved by?
Right? That's what I'm saying.
These big companies, Barnes & Noble, Marvel.
Yeah, and they really just aren't trying. Like I said earlier, they're wanting the brownie points without having to work for it. They don't want to put in the effort to understand. So they're just going to be like, oh, kids use the internet. Kids powers the internet. She's Hispanic. I went to a museum one time. Give her pigtails.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
We know that these kids love their safe spaces, so we're literally just going to make a character being safe space.
Gosh, dang. So frustrating.
And it's just bad writing. It's not even that it's stupid. It's just bad writing.
Mhm.
Your question was, what can white writers do to write better minority characters? To give an example, Spider-Man wasn't written to be white. That's a part of who he is, but he's not written with that.
Mhm.
Peter Parker has this complex character. He struggles with his inadequacies. He loses people. He has to deal with that. He's allowed to be a person, and that's something that Safe Space and Snowflake and these other stereotypes are never going to get.
Mm-hmm.
They're not allowed to exist as themselves.
Right.
Because they need to stay in the boxes on the little sheet that they're taking off the boxes on.
Yeah, seriously.
Just like with the Latin characters in TV, they're always going to have to be that stereotype, just to make sure people don't forget it.
Yeah.
It's just such bad writing.
He gives you a headache.
You kept on talking about, like, oh, they need to do it right, like, they need to be moral about it. I'm just like, it's such bad writing.
Yeah, like all that aside, it's just bad writing. And you mentioned earlier, like, with X-Men, for example. Actually, if you could remind me what you were talking about the X-Men and how that was like. I'm gonna let you take over with that.
With the X-Men, the whole story, the whole mutants versus normal people,
Yeah.
having to deal with being ostracized, being feared, and fighting for their rights, and then having the different camps where some people are like Magneto, who is, we need to have our own space and we need to attack violently those who try and oppress us. You can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have people more like Charles Xavier who say, we need to work with them, we need to show them what we're really like, we need to show them that we're human. Especially for the time it came out, obviously it's a parallel to the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
To Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Even though it was political and politics was a part of the message, the X-Men were still allowed to be characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had the 20 things that have happened to Jean Grey over the years. You have all the different Wolverine movies. The Wolverine may be awful, but I still love it. It's one of the few X-Men films I've actually seen. But the reason that I want to bring that up is sometimes I feel we just need to get politics out of writing completely. Just about stories, just about writing good stories. I don't know if that's really the way, though. I think it's more of a balance, because
Yeah.
X-Men have the politics as a background, as a way to contextualize things. Still worked. It's still brilliant. Even more so, one of the best comic stories of all time, Alan Moore's Watchmen, drips in politics. He gets on to damn near everything that went on in the 80s. As well as trying to say superheroes suck, which, personally, I don't think he really worked in that regard. Rorschach is awesome.
Of course you like Rorschach.
Liberal tears. That I've heard that show, the HBO show, is awful. But back to the point. You have these stories that are political, but aren't terrible in the same way that these new characters are. And I'm not sure I really know what exactly the difference is, what exactly the difference in the method is to creating these things.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think part of it is why these writers are creating these stories. I mean, I'm sure the people who wrote X-Men, they wanted to send that message. They wanted people to understand. But I don't think they were trying to earn social brownie points. They actually put in the effort to understand these ideologies so that they could translate them to their fantastical world of mutants. It's not just, oh, you know, we need these young folks to like us. What are the young folks into nowadays?
Internet, Dora.
Doesn't it feel like it's written by, I'm no offense to old white guys, I'm just saying, like, some out-of-touch old white guys, like the 1930s or 40s. I don't know, in my head I'm thinking of like a caricature. Just like some out-of-touch old white guy who's just like, what do the kids like these days? I'm just gonna write based off food. And it's like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
But go ahead, keep going. You were saying.
And yeah, you're absolutely correct that these people are just out of touch and they're not wanting to be in touch.
Good point.
The thing about writing, even when you're writing fiction, even when you're writing stories that don't have any message, when you're just like, oh, this is a funny idea, what would happen? You're communicating. You're connecting to somebody else. Stephen King described it as telepathy. Right, telepathy. I get that mixed up with telekinesis.
Me too.
Sending an idea from one person to another across time, across space, across cultural divines. And probably the biggest mistake that these corporate stooges do is they turn into a mechanism for their own profit alone.
Yeah.
They're not trying to communicate, they're trying to tell you. So yeah, my thoughts just kind of stopped there, but
Alright. Yeah, and going on to more about what good minority characters are. So, an example that I like to use is, you touched on this a lot, but I'm going to definitely follow this, is going to be, for example, Mulan. I've never watched the live action stuff, because that woman is such a Beijing shill, free Hong Kong.
thank you.
Yes, but, so, in the animated Mulan, yes, I know, it conflicts with the true story, whatever. The point is that in the Disney version of Mulan, she was a character who started off insecure about herself. She's brilliant, but she's insecure in her brilliance, to where you saw in the first. So the thing about Disney is that there's always a villain song, but Mulan is, I think, the only Disney animated film that has no villain song. But I countered that the true villain, it wasn't the Hun. Okay, spoiler alert, you haven't seen Mulan. If you're really mad by this, I don't know what to tell you. But so eventually, Mulan, she faces off with the leader of the Huns, and at first he ignores her because he thought, oh, she's just one of those useless concubines. But when she says, I'm the warrior from the mountain, and when he recognized her, he didn't say, nah, a woman can't be a fighter. No, he said, "You're the warrior from the mountains," and then tries to fight her, focusing all his attention on her. And weirdly, he gave her more respect as a woman with her own agency than all these other supporting characters up to this point. And the Chinese society in the first song, they were just the entire town was shitting on her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She has to be a good wife, and
Yeah.
that's how she's gonna be honored.
She has to,
family.
yeah, she has to be docile. She has to, be submissive to the man and not. It goes. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not just that's a message that resonates throughout any kind of culture that's male dominated. No, I'm not going to say bring down the patriarchy. You're allowed to have nuance, but don't. As a lot of young girls watching this, they can sympathize with. Oh yes, being told that. Men want someone who is a little bit dumber than they are, so the man feels smarter and rescues them.
Yeah.
Or the man doesn't want to feel emasculated, so dumbing yourself down, being submissive, being quiet. So Mulan has this very relatable turmoil, and that's the thing that separates her from any of this afterthought trash that they put out nowadays. Because Mulan was allowed to have flaws. She's allowed to be human. It's not like so either it is a walking stereotype to where, oh, that's a Latino actor. Let me see. Okay, there it is. He's drug dealing. He's gang banging. Oh yeah. So there we go. Or if there's a black woman and they're making her so perfect, she always has the right points to make. She is the best athlete, the best skill.
But she's not flawed. So
Yeah, she's not flawed, so you can't relate to that. But Mulan, she had real flaws. She's allowed to be human.
Oh yeah.
And that's why people love her. They didn't love her because she's an Asian, that she's a woman. They love her because she had her insecurities and worked through them to become a more whole, well-rounded person.
Absolutely. I mean, hell, even my boyfriend, who is a white man, I mean, he relates to Mulan. He was, growing up watching that. Like you said, just because it's not about her being Asian, about being a woman. It's just about a matter of hey, I'm somebody who's insecure and I don't know myself yet, and I don't know how to even express myself, and then you go on to finding your voice and being your own hero. So, like you said, that's universal. And in my experience, like I said, I feel like that's the way you make progress. Is anybody can watch this character and relate to him or her. So.
Because they aren't just their traits.
Yes.
I mean, admittedly, I don't know too much about the character Miles Morales, who, in case y'all know or the listeners don't know, is a version of Spider-Man from another universe who is a black Hispanic male. Though I have seen Into the Spider-Verse 4 times. Fantastic film. I totally relate to Miles Morales.
Exactly.
He doesn't need to necessarily look like me. He doesn't need to, they don't need to have a scene where he's praying the rosary, just so I'm like,
oh gosh, right?
He's Catholic, I can relate to this.
Not only would it be a stereotype on Catholics, it would be a stereotype on him being Hispanic. They often do that to Hispanic characters. Come on, are you serious?
And also, if he is praying the rosary in the church, the priest might get a little bit too handsy. You don't want to have that.
Demonetized.
You can edit it. Characters don't have to look like you to necessarily relate to them. I can understand for some people that may be helpful, and maybe there's something that I genuinely don't understand as a white man that, people do like seeing, people of different minority groups like seeing those characters, because it helps them relate. If that does, great. That's good. But they really do need to be characters first.
Most definitely.
They need to be people, exactly. I mean, hell, that's kind of how it works in real life. Sometimes, like I said, you'll watch shows where it's just maybe you might see, they don't really do this anymore nowadays, but like I said, growing up, I would see a lot of shows where it's they're all the same, a group of friends with all the same, ethnicity, maybe they're all white, maybe they're all white, or maybe they're all black, or maybe they're all Hispanic, but they're just they're hanging out only with people of the same color, the same ethnicity, race, and it's well, gosh, that's not even relatable, because that's not true to real life. In real life, you have various friends of different ethnic backgrounds and racial backgrounds. And you're not with that friend because of his or her traits. You're with them because they're a person you relate to, a person you can argue with, a person that you can like laugh with, you know. Now, granted, we talked about this before, where there are those weirdo, woke white people who are accumulating oppressed friends just to make themselves feel better. Like, how
Here's my collection.
I mean, when we were in high school, I mean, I remember it was kind of like a trend. It probably still is. It was kind of like a trend for like, you know, popular girls to have like the gay best friend.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Imagine the disappointment with me with this voice.
because you're a freaking person and not just like some stereotype that they see on like, I don't know, ETV with like a flamboyant gay man who's telling you, who's like carrying your shopping bags with you when you go shopping.
Oh my God, shopping! Do you catch my AIDS? Go!
That's the thing, or like, you know, and like I said before, sometimes I mean, it even crosses over to the dating world, where it's like, you know, we're probably like, I know personally I have met people who want to like, date me because they think I'm going to be like this fiery Latina woman who's going to like, you know,
Spice up their life.
Spice up their life. I'm like, and yeah, sure, maybe they might have been disappointed because I'm like, nah, I'm a person.
Yeah. And you speak better English than them.
And it's and I have a higher paying job than you. And it's just like, yeah, I'm a person with actual, I'm not a caricature, I'm not a stereotype. Now, again, like I said, we do come across those people every now and then where it's like, are you expecting me to, like, you know, do you think you're like the star of your own like TV show? And you have like this, you know, quote unquote diverse group of friends who's here to like give your token gay man, you have your token Latin, fiery Latina, etc. But like I said, in real life, I mean, it's just not like that. Except for those weird people who, I don't know
Oh yeah.
what their story is.
Yeah.
But with actual people, I mean, we don't go around collecting friends just
Yeah.
because of their traits.
And just think
and
about
their physical traits.
Yeah, and think about how insulting that is to where, oh, I feel like I need a black friend today. To where
It's weird, and it's stupid and weird, and just kind of scary. You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
don't poach me.
I mean, I kept on hearing in school that it was a bad thing when white people were collecting a bunch of black people.
Yeah, exactly.
It seriously does feel like a modern day version of like colonizers, you know.
It's so weird.
Here's these exotic Asian things I got when I pillaged that country.
Yeah. And not to mention, it's for that point where, oh, I have a black friend. So I can say that word. To where,
It's that too sometimes.
to where you're not even trying to be friends with them for who they are. Just, again, checking out boxes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and going back to characters that are done well. So, I absolutely love To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And yes, spoiler alert, because I have to say that because some people's getting offended. But the author is white, but one of my favorite characters in there is Calpurnia, who is a black nanny caretaker of sorts for the main characters in the story. But she could have easily became an afterthought mammy stereotype. But Calpurnia, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name because I only read To Kill a Mockingbird, I've never actually seen the movie, so I'm suffering from that syndrome of I am just pronouncing what I read in my head. But Calpurnia, she wasn't overdramatic, she wasn't a stereotype. There was great care put into her character, and she wasn't a perfect character by all means. One of my favorite scenes is when when Scout, the main character's story, she had a boy over Dill, and the setting of To Kill a Mockingbird was during the Great Depression, and so Scout beat up Dill in the yard and decided, and her brother said, no, you have to invite him over for dinner because you need to make up for this. So they invite him over, not for dinner, for school lunch. So they invite him over for lunch, and everyone receives him, and they give him food. He's from a poor family, so yes, white people can be poor too. And shocking. Poverty doesn't care about your race. And Dill, it's not Dill. Oh my goodness, I'm confusing my white boy characters. There's just so many of them in the story. So anyway, this character, he's a Cunningham, I believe. Okay, whatever. So white character got beat up by Scouts. He is just gorging himself on all his food because he's not from a well-to-do family. And Scout, she said, it just chastised and said, "Oh, you're gonna put syrup on all that too?" Because he's just putting syrup on his vegetables. And then Calpurnia, even though she's a black woman during these times, she grabbed scouts, brought into the kitchen, and said, "No, you wouldn't. They do not eat like we do. If he wants to eat that tablecloth, you better well let him." To where it wasn't about her saying, "Oh, you white people don't know," because that's a trap a lot of modern writers fall into, to where they always have to inject race into every argument.
Right.
So she said, "No, you have to." She said, Calpurnia is coming from a place to where it's not her getting revenge on the white people, her putting a white girl in place. She was trying to teach her humanity.
Yeah.
To where that boy that you beat up, he doesn't eat like you do. He is not as privileged as we are. So please, he's your guest. Treat him with respect and kindness. And that's why she's so endearing to us. She could have easily been a long mammy stereotype.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
But no, she's intelligent, she's a witty, but she's not perfect. To where there's another brilliant scene later on. Again, spoilers. When she took a scout and her brother to her black church. And Calpurnia, up to this point, she spoke proper English. But when she was in this all black area, where it was a lot of people spoke in a unfortunately uneducated manner. And that's the truth of the era of the time.
Yeah.
Let's not make everything perfect. I appreciate the writer for this. And when when Calpurnia was confronted by an angry black woman, let's face it, some people are playing stereotype bingo. Some people are walking stereotypes. They exist. So she was mad at Calpurnia for bringing two white kids to a black church. She's like, no, they have their own church, we have ours. Taking the very Malcolm X approach. I mean, this is before his time, but let's not play along here. So Calpurnia, to the kid's shock, she spoke in a lower form vernacular.
Okay.
And they asked her, why do you speak like that when you always crack down? She says, some people are not going to learn no matter what, which is a painful lesson for kids to learn, but that's the truth of life.
Mm-hmm.
So some folks fault Calpurnia for this, for not standing up for the right thing every single time, even if it comes to diction. But I think that makes her a more relatable character.
Yeah, she's more realistic in that way.
Yeah. Sorry that went on a tangent. I love this book.
That's fine.
No worries, no worries.
And I mean, it is relatable to what we're discussing here in regards to how non-whites, how minorities are represented in literature. So, no worries.
Hakuna Matata. Speaking of Hakuna Matata. So, isn't it messed up that the villain of Simba is a black lion?
Huh. I never even knew that, to be honest.
I mean, something we really didn't take into account was how he was oppressed, and he just wanted him and his oppressed hyenas, or whatever race they're supposed to be.
Right? I mean,
they just needed to rise up against their oppressors.
yeah,
But see-
come on. They're outcasts and they're oppressed.
But see, if they were all, on this oppression train, like let's all go to oppression station, the struggle bus part, to where, why did he sell out his hyenas? Spoiler alert! At the end of the first movie, Lion King,
Oh, okay.
we're like, they're already all along. Some leader you are, you deserve to get even.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's. Have there other minority characters you believe are just done brilliantly in works of fiction?
Yes. 2013 found footage film Chronicle, one of my absolute favorite films, features a trio of teenage boys getting telekinetic powers.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. 20 minutes. Major spoilers coming though. So, and out of the trio, there's Andrew, who is the abused guy with a mom who's dying of some disease, who starts filming everything so that when his dad is hitting him, he has it on record. There's Matt, the stoner, who eventually learns to take stuff seriously and to step up as a hero with his powers. Then the last of this trio is Steve, who's the black character in question. Steve is this really popular guy, cracking jokes a lot, very charismatic, played by Michael B. Jordan. I think this may be his first major role, actually, which is just even better.
Well, he's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. Justice for Black Panther. But Steve isn't just this popular stereotype. He's not just, a loud black man. He's not just, somebody who's popular so he abuses the socially outcast. when he goes up to Andrew after Andrew gets punched at a party, and he's like, hey, so we need to borrow that camera. We got this crazy shit. Hey, you alright, man? And then they're walking later. Andrew, I remember you, freshman year. You had that red hoodie. Now, admittedly, this story does follow typical trends because he is the first one to die. Spoiler alert.
That does suck, but you know.
Yeah, but while they do acknowledge the race of their characters in that movie, it's not the focal point for any of them. If anything, they're actually kind of a Freudian trio.
Yeah.
I don't know Freud that well. Id, ego, superego, those words mean something, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure all leads to liking your mom.
Oh gosh.
Yes. Admittedly.
Well, I mean, you should like your mom, but you don't want to. I don't want you to want to screw her. That's what I'm saying.
Admittedly, everything Andrew does is out of love for his mother and anger at his father. So.
As long as he doesn't put on her clothes and have a hotel somewhere.
Oh god.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
But yeah, Steve Montgomery, definitely one of the most well-written characters I've seen. Everything in that movie I just love so much. And it sucks because that guy went on to do the Fan Forsnick movie from 2015, which sucked major ass. Especially because Chronicle ends on a cliffhanger. But
I know, right? Everybody was expecting like a sequel, and I would have watched it because I usually don't watch like these superhero movies, or and I don't really watch their like their sequels. I personally really like. Hey, tell me a story and like end it already. Stop trying to make a profit. But that one actually, yeah, I was like, I kind of wish they had to come out with a sequel because I would have watched it.
yeah.
But anyways,
So yeah, that's a minority character I really wanted to talk about. He's part of my collection. What about you, RJ?
yeah, I mean, I gotta say, okay, so like earlier I was talking about I pointed out Lizzie McGuire because it just like popped. It was like one of the first things that popped in my head from like my childhood. Those are like the shows that I watched. And I would say actually in that show I remember again because it was part of like me growing up. I feel like one thing I had growing up. Granted, like I said, if I was growing up now, it would have been better because I feel like there's more representation these days in kid and young adult programming. But in my day, I still had it better than like the generation before. And Lizzie McGuire, I mean, they had her best friend was Miranda, and she was a Hispanic girl who was also just like, she hardly spoke Spanish unless she needed to. I don't think there was any like gratuitous like Spanish there. And what was I say? Her character was also just as like flawed and quirky and trying to figure things out, just like the protagonist Lizzie McGuire. Now, granted, like I said, watching that show growing up, I was like, yeah, I can relate to Miranda because she's Hispanic and she's also like me, where we're just like we're awkward and we're trying to figure things out and we're flawed. It's just a shame that she's a sidekick and she's not like I would love to like see a show that's like her story, or somebody like her, it's her story and everybody else is a sidekick. And like I said, I ironically enough don't watch a whole lot of TV shows. I think, like I said, because I want a story that's told in like 2 hours or less. Like, give me your story in one go, and then I can move on with my life. But there's a TV show that I've been kind of like hooked on for the past year. I don't really watch workplace comedies that much, but I do watch Superstore. Because and I love the main character who's portrayed by America Ferrera. And hell, I mean, America, again, growing up, I used to see America Ferrera on Disney shows and movies, and I think she did actually a good job in those days, or not her, but like Disney in those days, to do a good job of like providing, good Hispanic protagonists when they had her in their movies. And in Superstore, which is a current TV show, I love that America Ferrera. She portrays a Hispanic female character who is, she's quirky and has awkward moments, and she's not fiery and uber sensual and all of that. Don't get me wrong. I think, like, let's say for example, Sofia Vergara in Modern Family. I actually do like her character because her sensuality is like part of her comedy, and like Sofia Vergara really made that that character her own. So I appreciate that. And then on the other side of things, we have, like I said, like Superstore, where the protagonist, a Hispanic woman. One, I mean, she's the boss, which is cool. And then two, you know, it's like I said before, we're not always, or we're not all like these fiery, sexy ass Latin women who are like going on battling in Spanish. Like I relate to her. She's for real. She has her awkward moments, and she's goofy and trying to figure things out. So that is a couple of minority characters I actually really liked and related to. My TV watching experience.
Yeah, your brief TV watching experience because...
My brief TV watching experience. It's like a 10-year gap between like Lizzie McGuire and Superstore.
Yeah, but you definitely hit it on the head too, where we're not saying that stereotypes are a bad thing, but if minorities are watching representation, especially if they are young and more impressionable, and seeing that there's only one way to be a minority because there's only one token minority character of the kind, then that's what it brings out of that message. As something that I actually enjoyed. I loved the first season of Dear White People. Yeah, I never watched the second season. I'm planning to. But Dear White People, for those of you who don't know, it is a show with a mostly black cast. Because, it's mostly about black people. It's like the entire thing of asking the Korean director, why do you cast?
Yeah, why would you ask a Korean director or a Korean film? Oh, why do you cast Korean actors? Are we really that backwards as a society? It's like, oh, well, I would assume he would have hired white actors, Scotch.
All we need is Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. What are they going to do? It's funny because it's like, okay, yeah, like maybe back in the 40s, if you wanted to have, Asian characters in your movie, unless they were extras, if they were like the main like character, you would hire like a white actor who's well known, and you would just give them like a lot of eyeliner or something like that, quote unquote Asian-ish or whatever. And you did the same thing.
Your old face.
And it's the same thing with like if you're
Hear that, Governor Ralph Northam?
Hear that, Trudeau? Real quick. Cool if I go to the bathroom real quick?
Oh, okay. You're always just one white guy. Go.
But yeah, and then if you wanted to have a Hispanic character in your movies, back in those days, yeah, you'd hire a white actor and give him like a lot of brown makeup. They can really tan looking.
Yeah.
But these days, it's like, gosh, damn, are we so like backwards that we think people are like still making movies like that? Why would you ask that question? No, dummy. Yeah, I'm gonna,
It's those dumb moments that makes you think,
It's
man,
dumb,
just
yeah.
hire me for Barnes & Noble, hire me for whatever news agency that was. Just please, I'll avoid these dumb moments.
Yeah, seriously.
And then asking about, oh hey, what was the inspiration behind Parasite? Instead of, why were they Asian? Why were they Korean?
And that's another thing that upsets me. Is like, what a way to
Yeah, way to default. Yeah.
What a way to default, and what a wasted moment. To ask a question. Like, you could have asked a better question and just completely wasted that opportunity.
Yeah, and that just illustrates what's on their mind. It's really for the appearance of helping minorities, being that savior, versus people trying to understand him. He's trying to have a conversation about his film, and you're just coming up to him with this bullshit question.
Yeah.
But to the point of, going back to Dear White People, yes, it's a mostly black cast, and what I appreciated about it is that they were allowed to have a diversity of black characters. Yes, skin tones. Yes, we have actual dark-skinned black characters. Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen them in the trailers at least.
Yes. It's a great one. And do you mind spoilers?
I don't mind spoilers.
Okay, so for Dear White People, it's actually analogous to the X-Men series that Josh brought up earlier, to where we have two camps that form over the course of Dear White People. So the inciting incident is we have a party to where a bunch of white people came up in blackface, and they're enjoying themselves. So we saw the usual suspects of Governor Ralph Northam, Justin Trudeau just rocking the blackface and the brown face.
Yeah.
But And then it goes, and then diverges into the formation of two camps over the course of the series, to where there is Sam White, who, yes, ironic that her last name is Whites, who's a black, who is one of the more revolutionary black characters. She wants changing, she wants to announce this character, she has to burn down the system. And she is opposed by Coco, who is more the reformist line of thinking. She wants to work within the system to get slow but steady reforms. And the show doesn't give you, for lack of a better term, black and white answers onto who is right, who is the popular black advocates. There's a lot of nuance in the show to where all these characters question themselves and their own ideals. So everyone's allowed to have flaws, everyone's allowed to have, different skin tones, and everyone's allowed to have their own opinions without having their black card taken away by Biden. And that's just the beauty of that show, Dear White People.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I just get on tangents when I just love the writing of it all. And that's the thing too, where even though race is the forefront, they didn't let politics get in the way of good storytelling.
Okay.
To where these characters were made to be political pariahs, oppressed by society, but they're always right. So the white people out there have to help them out because minorities can't save our damn selves.
Seriously.
But that is just onto your point of yes, have a diversity of characters, even if they are diverse. Don't just have a one and done token and say job well done.
Yeah.
Go me, king of the blacks, and for you to talk about hey, how to write good minority characters. One, no minorities, try to understand them, take care of them, and think of them as people first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm sorry just for taking the breath out of the room, but I think it's a good time to go on who we want to deport, like way out of the room. So I say that RJ.
Open his hand.
Yes, RJ, you have some candidates for deportation.
So one I was thinking. Okay, so even though your topic on Marvel Comics earlier was directed towards Josh, when I looked it up, I would have to say so the guy who actually wrote those characters, the Trailblazers, Safe Space, Snowflake, whatever you call them. Daniel Kiberman, sorry, but that's my candidate for deportation.
No, don't say sorry. Don't be like Barnes and Noble.
And then another one was a screenwriter. Okay, here's the thing. I'm sure he's done other great works. I'm just saying, I've seen at least one example of his work, and I'm just like, yeah, that's not how you write. Again, that's not how you write Hispanic characters. It's just Hispanic characters who have this gratuitous. I don't know, reduced Spanish coming out all over the place during the episode. And it's I'm not going to say the show because I just feel one, I can't really remember the name of the show.
Until you don't want to remember.
And until I don't want to remember. I would just be promoting that show anyway. But, James Leffler, hey, maybe up your game with it. Or actually, hey, look, if you want to write Hispanic characters, just, consult to actually get to know Hispanic people and how we are and how we talk.
Pick one from your collection and talk to them in person.
Pick one from your collection and talk to them. Actually, get to know us, and that way you can write more relatable minority characters. So those are my two candidates. Was Daniel Kiberman of that, I don't even know what it's called, New Warriors?
Yeah, the New Warriors.
The New Warriors, I don't know. Daniel Kiberman of Marvel Comics, and James Leffler, the screenwriter. Again, just based on that one example I've seen, it's just not for me, So, deportation, please.
Yeah, I say, damn, Daniel, you got this to the door? That's unforgivable.
That is pretty unforgivable, I will say that. That's just not only, like he said, not only is it offensive, it's just, damn, that is straight up ripping off someone else's idea. Gosh.
She's not even a superhero. The backpack is super.
Which again, insulting to Hispanic women, come on, really? Aren't we capable of being superheroes?
Yeah, they say, we want superheroes. Like, oh, great, and you get this. Yeah, discount Dora the Explorer.
Yeah.
With pigtails as a grown teenager.
I know.
Yeah. Who are you voting for, Josh?
My people have gotten to vote enough in history of who gets to be where. So I'm going to do the only thing that would allow RJ to have any voice, is just not all speak. Do you feel saved yet?
Yeah, I feel so saved right now. I don't know. You don't have to hand me anything, but I will say this. Granted, I don't need Josh to hand me anything, but I will say this: I will always take any man to submit to me anyway. So.
It's a spice of so that's the spice of life we're talking about. But yeah, Daniel Kimmelman.
That's for Minority Depart after hours.
Check our OnlyFans. But yeah, Daniel Kimmelman, you just gotta go in that magic backpack and just go the hell away. And this began as an afterthought. Yeah, so speaking of afterthoughts, do we have any final thoughts on the subject today?
I would say in regards to what Josh was saying earlier about bad writing, and when he brought up the example of X-Men and how that was an example of something that was political for its time, politically relevant for its time, and politically motivated, but it was still an example of good writing. I would say I think a lot of what we see these days, unfortunately, is just how people always complain like, well, there's no one can really come up with an original idea, and I think a lot of people actually I don't know, they kind of like give up on the quest to be original or whatever, and they just piggyback off of what has been successful in the past. And so I feel like people these days who are writing like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna like write these minority characters, and in a way, again, I just feel like they're actually the reason why it's not good writing is because they think they can just piggyback off of something that's already been successful in the past, which it's bad writing, it's uninspired, it's not fair. And I think like what Josh was saying earlier, like it can be politically motivated and all that, but just make it good. Why don't you just like inject your own voice into the writing, see what and other people find it relatable because you injected your own voice into the writing, they relate to you. So I just wanted to elaborate on that point. I feel like what's going on is the reason why there's so much bad writing is because a lot of people are really just piggybacking off of, whether they believe in it or not, they're just piggybacking off of what has been successful in the past.
Yeah, most definitely. And we end up with the hand-me-downs.
We had enough of the hand-me-downs.
Thank you, white people.
You're welcome. I definitely agree that people are trying to piggyback off of the successes of the past because they, one, don't want to put in the work and effort, and two, they're in a way scared.
Mm-hmm.
They are scared of being new and unique because that may fail. It may be garbage. And I mean, superhero movies. A lot of people say that Marvel does the same movie over and over because everything has to be an origin story, and
yeah.
all the villains have to be just like the hero and this is more focused on Marvel. DC, they tend to have better villains.
Okay.
And more diverse villains. I mean,
Yeah, I think
not everyone Batman fights is Batman, but bad. One kind of random thing regarding the whole Latinx.
Don't you mean Latinx?
It doesn't even make sense in the comments of Spanish. To where, because the X is, you pronounce it with a sound, to where, like,
So yeah.
it's just so awkward to end. I mean, you have Genesis, I mean, you have Javier, but can you really?
I think that actually makes it worse for Spanish-speaking people if they can't say that word.
And Spanish-speaking people don't want this word.
That actually just makes it even clearer that it's an English-speaking white people thing.
Yeah,
Separation of that, because I mean, Spanish is a gendered language. Like, in English, you have policeman to police officer. Okay, who really cares? Who really gives a shit? Spanish, everything about it is gendered. You can't just be like, oh, well, I mean, it's progressive now to do this. So we're just going to completely change that. Especially because apparently it's really clear that it's just these white elitist liberals who feel like they need to correct all these ignorant minorities around them.
Yeah, in a way it does feel like that, to be honest.
So yeah, I refuse to say Latinx in an unironic sense.
And that's the thing too, where so white people colonized, forced minorities to learn this language, and now they're weak-willed descendants. Not only are they not using spices properly, they are telling us how to speak what we've been taught to speak. And on top of that, they have to give us these hand-me-down, color-washed characters. And say, hey, am I not your king yet? But yes, so I believe that's a great point to end before we tempt fate by having too much fun in this year of 2020. The longest year yet. We're not even halfway through.
I swear.
Yeah, but I hope that all y'all listening and watching out there, that you're safe at home. And thank you, Cam, for watching. This is Minority Reports. And, I just really screwed that up.
What did you say?
No, I did it out of order. So, okay, I'm not cutting this out. So, from all of us at the Minority Report, thank you kindly for watching. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Yeah.